Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update, and it appears that the Spanish government's plans to soon treat COVID-19 like the flu have been dashed by the WHO. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I said, it looks as though the Spanish government's plans to treat COVID-19 like the flu this year have been dashed by the WHO. Because, as we can see here, the WHO rules out treating COVID as influenza in 2022. On Monday, Pedro Sanchez announced the government's intention to fluify COVID in the middle of the sixth wave, with contagion soaring and hospitalizations on the rise. Taking this step will take time and will not be in the short term. Public health experts consulted by this newspaper point out that we must wait for the incidence of the sixth wave to drop and give ourselves a period of stabilization, which could well be the summer. But public statements yesterday from the WHO's top officials in Europe, Catherine Smallwood, and its regional director Hans Kluge, showed their disagreement with treating COVID-19 as endemic, as proposed by some countries such as ours and the UK, as the conditions for this are not met. The expert did not rule out COVID-19 becoming endemic at some point, but it is difficult to consider it in 2022 with this scenario, and it is difficult to determine the number of cases for this year, she said. So Pedro Sanchez's intention to fluify COVID-19, as written in that article, dashed by the WHO. WHO experts saying that it will happen at some point, but maybe not in 2022. And the WHO is not the only health body ruling out this idea. As we can see here, the EMA is also warning that Omicron is highly contagious and coronavirus not yet endemic. The European Medicines Agency warns that the Omicron variant of SARS-CoV-2 is highly contagious and should not be relegated to a mild disease, and called for not forgetting that we are still in a pandemic and not dealing with an endemic virus. In a virtual press conference, Marco Cavalieri, head of vaccination strategy at the EMA, warned of the rapid spread of the Omicron variant and called on European countries to be aware of its potential burden, especially hospital burden, and not to dismiss it as a mild disease because of data suggesting it could cause mild cases of coronavirus. It noted that emerging evidence on the effectiveness data of COVID-19 vaccines licensed in the European Union, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca and Janssen, shows that they provide high protection against serious diseases and hospitalizations related to the Omicron variant. So the European Medicines Agency also saying that it's better to be cautious when it comes to the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Now, with the Omicron variant spreading rapidly here in Spain, it's estimated that millions more will catch it before this sixth wave ends. In fact, the sixth wave could result in 15 million actual infections. We only detect 20 or 30%, an expert said. The sixth wave started slowly in October and has not yet peaked. It could start to decline, as it did a year ago in mid-January, but this time it will have to do so from a higher peak of transmission. How many people have been infected before recovering to early autumn levels? In the current scenario, between 15 and 20 million people could become infected in Spain, counting from where the current epidemic wave began to rise and until it brings us back to where we were after the fifth summer wave. The official figure, in any case, will be much lower. After living these weeks one holiday after another and one record number of infections after another, it is difficult to make forecasts. But with the information available and under the current conditions, SARS-CoV-2 could end up infecting practically 1 in 3 Spaniards throughout the sixth wave, according to some forecasts. The consequences, as we know, will be very different for each person. Many will go through it without knowing it or like a cold. Others will become seriously ill or unfortunately die. And an as yet unknown percentage will suffer persistent COVID, perhaps weeks or months after infection. So that's the reality of this current wave of COVID-19 here in Spain. 1/3 of the population could become infected before this wave ends. Now, the sale and price of rapid antigen tests here in Spain is again making headlines, and the competition agency has spoken, and it recommends removing pharmacy's monopoly on COVID test sales and will review government price intervention. The National Markets and Competition Commission recommends that the government take away pharmacy's monopoly on the sale of antigen tests, among other over-the-counter health products, and will study the announced price controls to see if they are counterproductive. The reservation of dispensing medical devices to pharmacies is not justified in general, so that the dispensing and supply of these products in other establishments should be allowed, official CNMC sources told El Mundo in response to a question about its position on the current controversy with the COVID tests. These sources point out that they have not specifically analysed the case of antigen tests, but that the agency has long maintained the recommendation to eliminate the reservation of activity of pharmacies for the dispensing of medicines not subject to medical prescription and allow their dispensing in other establishments, provided they comply with the minimum health requirements of conservation and hygiene. We also recommend facilitating sales through websites or other telematic means, they say. So, there we go. Good to see that I'm not alone with my opinion that pharmacies here in Spain should not have a monopoly on certain medical products, especially ones that you don't need a prescription for. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation in Spain, and we can see that accumulated incidence rate countrywide now over the 3,000 mark. Hospital pressure remains high at 13.3%. There are 16,555 COVID patients hospitalised around the country, and ICU pressure also remains high at 23.5%. There are 2,200 COVID patients in ICU. But the unfortunate piece of data that we can see here is that the government reported 247 COVID-related deaths yesterday. Now, the great Spanish meat controversy continues to make headlines. We saw last week how the Spanish Consumer Affairs Minister Alberto Garzón criticised the industry in an interview in the British newspaper The Guardian. Well, according to the Podemos party and its spokesperson Pablo Echenique, this is not about mega farms, it's about a hoax. Pablo Echenique, a spokesman for Unidas Podemos in Congress, said on Las Mañanas de ANI with Íñigo Alfonso that the controversy caused by Alberto Garzón's statements in The Guardian are based on a hoax, on statements that the minister did not make and that the Partido Popular has used to take advantage of the elections in Castilla y León. You have to understand what this debate is about. It is not about Alberto Garzón, nor about macro farms. It's about a hoax. There is a pseudo-media owned by companies that manage macro farms that publishes false news, something that Mr. Garzón has not said that is a lie. This was picked up by the PP of Castilla y León, and Mr. Mañueco echoed this hoax, which was then widely disseminated by a lot of media. This is extremely serious because the spreading of hoaxes and lies is a direct attack on democracy, he said. And he also went on to compare this story with the assault on the Capitol building in Washington last January. This whole meat scandal here in Spain is an attack on democracy in the same way that the Capitol invasion was an attack on US democracy. And if I'm being honest, I haven't heard anything as ridiculous or delusional as that in a long time. But trust Podemos to find a comparison. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Dean, haha, tests here in Sweden are about €9. Yeah, Dean, thanks for the comment, and in reply to the topic that was mentioned yesterday about how the price of antigen tests here in Spain is a lot more than in neighbouring European countries, for example Portugal, where you can pick one up for around €2, whereas here in Spain for less than 5, it's hard to find one of these tests. And you mentioned in your comment that in Sweden you pay around €9 for one of these tests. Well, here before Christmas, people were paying even more than that. And the reason, as I mentioned yesterday, the pharmacy monopoly. But hopefully, as we saw earlier in the video, there's going to be an investigation by the competition watchdog here in Spain, and maybe the sale of these antigen tests will be freed up and not only available from pharmacies. We live in hope. One here from Daz, you are correct. For the UK, you can go into any pharmacy or supermarket with a pharmacy counter and pick up 2 packs of 7 tests, so 14 in total, absolutely free. I've heard you can now do 4 packs, but yet to see that. Or you can order a couple of packs online for free delivery. I'm not sure about people coming to pick them up, as you don't need to send them off, but yeah, they are totally free. Here in Lanzarote, they are between €7 and €9 each. Yeah, Daz, thanks for the comment, and there you go. People in Lanzarote getting absolutely ripped off having to pay between €7 and €9 for one of these tests, and as you mentioned there, in the UK, absolutely free. So yet another example of price gouging here in Spain. We saw it before with face masks, and now we're seeing it again with these rapid antigen tests. One here from Jer. Hi Stuart, and thanks for your very informative videos. I'm going to Gran Canaria next week from Ireland and was just wondering exactly what I need to travel. I'm fully vaccinated, boosted, etc. Thanks. Yeah, Jer, thanks for the comment, and sorry if I have mispronounced your name. Basically, to travel from Ireland to the Canary Islands, if you are double vaccinated and boosted, which is your case according to your comment, all you need to do is have proof of that vaccination with one of the COVID certificates that I'm sure that you can get in Ireland, and then you have to go to a Spanish government website and fill out a health form. And I think that's all you have to do. You might have to download a copy of the documents just in case somebody asks you for them on arrival in the Canary Islands, but I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure that people in the comment section that have had experience with this will be able to help you out. So if you do, please let him know in the comment section. One here from Toro Viejo. Pharmacies are not the only industry controlled totally by a certain tribe, which we are not allowed to criticize or even mention. They have their grubby tentacles on everything that is lucrative. Estancos, for example, just to name one. Yeah, Toro, thanks for the comment, and unfortunately you are right when you say that pharmacies are not the only industry that are controlled by a certain tribe. In fact, the list is long, not only here in Spain, but in many other countries around the world too. I suppose it's human nature that when you find something like gold, you want to keep that gold mine secret and not let others in on the act. But in the current system that we live in, we get told that it's all about competition and that competition is good for the market. But when it comes to industries like pharmacies, and the other one you mentioned there, estancos or tobacco shops, there's no competition. So many businesses do have a privileged position in the market, and unfortunately it's not good for the consumer, which is what we're seeing now with these antigen tests. One here from Andrew. Hi Stu, another interesting video. Thanks, nice to see you out and about, and I must say the picture quality is excellent. New GoPro definitely worth it. I enjoyed seeing all those polígonos industriales. I've always been amazed at the limitless diversity of stuff you can get in these places, and you don't have to be a trade, professional or bulk buyer to get served. All the best. Yeah, Andrew, thanks for the comment. Glad you liked the video, and good to see that you can notice a difference in the image quality with the GoPro. I'm quite happy with the result, and I think the investment was definitely worth it. So a big thanks to everybody out there that supported the channel and helped me buy that camera. And when it comes to those polígonos or industrial areas like the one that I drove through in yesterday's video, you're right, there is a lot of diversity and lots of different types of businesses in those polígonos industriales. You can get your car serviced, you can pick yourself up some pet food, you can get a cheap meal, you can buy marijuana seeds, and you can even get yourself a hookah if you're into that type of thing. I said hookah, not hooker. And finally, one here from Jim. Is Portugal open now? I want to come soon. Yeah, Jim, thanks for the comment. And as far as I know, Portugal's borders are still open. Tourists are welcome. And I haven't heard any talk about Portugal closing its borders either. I was there last week, as many people know, and I saw lots of other tourists there also. So borders open, and let's hope they stay open. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.